and welcome to My Brain is a Wonderland, the podcast for neurodivergent women and the people who love them. It's Emily here, the week before Christmas. This is Wednesday, Christmas is on Monday, and so today we are taking a break from our regularly scheduled programming, which is the 4-episode series called Unmasking ADHD. And today I am doing a holiday Schmoliday episode. And if you've listened to my episodes prior, a lot of the times around holidays, I do a holiday Schmoliday episode just to talk about how I'm feeling, what I'm dealing with, and maybe give you some tips on how you can cope moving through the holidays. I didn't do one around Thanksgiving because it was actually just a really short holiday for us. We drove up, I say us, me and my husband. We drove around 2 hours north to go see my in-laws and drove back the same day, and it was very low-key, very easy, and I really enjoyed it, so I just didn't do one for that. But today, I wanted to do a December Christmas holiday episode because I've mentioned previously I have a lot going on this holiday, and I've had to set some boundaries. And this all started in January. I think I mentioned that last episode, which I know seems crazy. And I just wanted to talk to all of you and really let you know that if you have boundaries that you need to set, that it's okay to do that. And I completely understand if you have a family that does not emotionally or physically allow you to do that, or attacks you emotionally or physically. I hope that isn't happening when you try to put boundaries down. If you've listened to this podcast a lot, you know that I am estranged from my biological family, and putting boundaries down with them has been exceedingly difficult moving through my adult life. I was always attacked for it, and really dressed down for it, and it was just a really unpleasant experience, which is partly why we're estranged. But my in-law family, so my husband's family, generally does way better with that. They accept boundaries. Sometimes they aren't pushing boundaries, but they're saying, oh, but we really want you to do this. Could you please? Or we'd prefer if you, we'd love you to be there with the kids or the family or whatever. And I get that that is them just saying, we would prefer you to be there because we love you. And it can sometimes feel a little bit like pressure when you try to put down boundaries and people come back at you, even if it's from a loving place. So I just wanted to go over my experience, what I'm going through, and hopefully this can empower you to do the same thing if you need to this holiday season, whether you're celebrating Christmas or not, if you're celebrating Chinese New Year, if you celebrated Hanukkah, Diwali, any Kwanzaa, any holiday that's around this time, or in general moving forward. I want you to know that you can put down boundaries and you can drop people who don't respect them, if you so please. So here we go. Let's get into it. I did mention just now and in my previous episode, this started in January. So it actually started a month or so prior, but it really kicked in January. So last, November or December, my sister-in-law called me or spoke to me about basically the plan would be to go on a family skiing trip for about a week around Christmas in 2024. So this is 2022, and she's telling me in 2024, that's what we're planning. Okay, so that's next year. And I say, great, that sounds great. My father-in-law's retiring in 2024, so he really wanted it to be like his retirement celebration. My sister-in-law has 4 kids who've never seen snow. Her husband has never seen snow. We live in Florida. They're Florida babies. And it just seemed really exciting. She was going to have, in 2024, her baby would have been like 2 to 3. And so right at the time when you can start taking those itty-bitty skiing lessons that are so adorable. And so she told me this, and I was like, okay, thanks for telling me 2 years prior. I mean, obviously she was so excited about the idea and just wanted to let me know. And I was like, cool beans, 2 years, got it. I'll check in 18 months, you know? So then comes around Christmas, January, like Christmas 2022, January 2023. I forget exactly when. And apparently the trip now has to be moved to Christmas 2023, which is right now, because my brother-in-law and his wife are in medical school, and next year in 2024, they will enter their residency, which means they will not have time off. They're in school right now, so they get time off for Christmas, right? But, you know, if you have a job out there or what have you, you cannot guarantee a week off. And I think when you're around any time, really. And when you're a medical resident, I think it's even less so. I don't even know what the choices are. I mean, they have to have someone to cover, multiple people to cover hospitals and doctor stuff over Christmas Day. So it was basically decided that because this would be kind of the last Christmas for a while, that we'd be sure that the entire family could take a week off and be together, that we would move the vacation to this year, 2023. So I've been told it's 2 years, and now they just moved it up a year. And I was like, all right, sounds good. That's fine with me. We still got a year. I can deal with that. Well, my sister-in-law, bless her, was so excited about this trip that she started speaking to me a lot about it. And then if anyone knows who has booked flights before, they open up around 10 to 11 months prior to the actual date. So if you want to fly out, we're flying out December 26th. Those flights actually open up in January, which is around 10 to 11 months prior. And so my sister-in-law is like, okay, so we need to book flights. Here's when we're leaving. So we're thinking it's going to be this time, and then we're going to arrive here, and then we have to drive 2 hours. And I'm not trying to make her sound annoying. This is just me. But that's how it was coming into my brain. But not that she was annoying, but that it was so fast-paced and intense. And there was so much. Like, you need to book your flight now. You need to decide what you're doing now. What time are you going to get there? You need to know that now. And you need to coordinate it with us because they're flying out of a different airport 2 hours north of us. So it was a lot, unexpected, and very intense in January, which to me was like, this is too early. I can't deal. And so I had to rope my husband into, I say rope my husband, not rope him into it, just ask him plainly out loud because I just wanted him to help me book this flight because I was like, dude, I can't see the forest for the trees right now. I'm so I was just stressed about it. And I think it was the amount of information I was receiving all at once and the fact that I wasn't in control of it. I mean, I've booked flights a year out. That's fine. I'm doing all the work. I know where we're going. I'm in control of it. This, I was like, what are we doing? Wait, we need to, what? And someone telling me, you've got to do this. You've got to do this. We have to do this. And the reason my husband wasn't involved is because my sister-in-law always calls me. And, you can infer from that what you wish. But yes, there is a mental load portion to this that the women in the family generally plan the vacations, they plan trips, they plan family events, and so the women generally communicate, which is me, my sister-in-law, and my mother-in-law. I don't want to hear judgment about that from you guys, it's just how it is, and in certain times, I do push my sister-in-law or my mother-in-law to contact my husband, because they continue this cycle by only calling me, right? So I asked my husband, I'm like, please help me with this. I need other eyes on this because I'm like, what time should we leave? What are we doing? What the hell? So he books the flight and that's booked. And I'm like, okay. But then for the next year, bless her, almost every time I talk to my sister-in-law, we're talking about the trip. She's bringing it up. She's so excited. What are we going to do? Da 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 da. And so it's just been a stress for me thinking about it. And one of the biggest stresses is that it was chosen to fly out the day after Christmas, Boxing Day, which to me is absolute insanity, right? I mean, is anyone else thinking that? Like, you have Christmas Day and then you fly out? I probably would have preferred to fly out the 23rd, like the day before Christmas Eve, have Christmas there, and then it's kind of a scaled down Christmas, which we've actually done before. We went to Grenada for 10 days for Christmas 10 years ago, and it was a lot easier because Christmas was scaled back. You didn't have to think about doing Christmas, then doing the vacation. It was just all lumped together, and we got people small gifts like books, really easy stuff to bring in your luggage. So that was a big stressor that it was the day after Christmas. And in about May or June, I said to my husband, look, this is going to be very stressful for me, for everybody, for our dogs that we're going to leave for 8 days, the day after Christmas. I do not want to drive 2 hours north, spend a hot tamale doing Christmas, then drive 2 hours back, and then have to pack, remember everything, make sure the house is clean, get rid of all the food from the fridge. You know, the dogs are going to be panicked because we've already left for a day or two, and then we're going to come back for a few hours and then leave in the morning the next day. I was just like, I don't want to do it. The dogs don't want to do it. I can't do it. So I told my husband that, and I said, and look, I would love to spend Christmas with you here with the dogs, but I also totally understand if you want to go and have Christmas with your family. In fact, this is the family home that my husband and his siblings grew up in. Me and him also lived there together for 5 years, from age 25 to 30. He was 26 to 31. So it has a really special place in my heart. It is like my second home. It's like my first home in America, and now my second home because we own a home. But I said, you know, that's up to you, what you want to do. And he, at first, was kind of like, okay, maybe I'll go. We're not going to spend Christmas. And this house, actually, the other thing I was going to say is they're trying to sell it right now. The family home, which, because it's too big, and this happens often when you're an adult, right? And then you're like, oh God, the nostalgia. And the plan is that this is going to be the last Christmas in the family home, that they're hoping to sell it next year. You can't guess these things, but that's the plan. So I said, look, if you want to go. That's totally fine. Not a big deal. And he wasn't sure. And then a few months later, you know, I kept mentioning it, saying like, remember, I'm not going for Christmas. I'm just not doing it. And then he kind of said, you know, I think what I'll do is on Christmas Eve day, I'll drive up. This is my husband. I'll drive up there, take all our gifts, collect our gifts, and then we'll have Christmas together. I'll be home by afternoon, evening on Christmas Eve, and then we'll have Christmas together. And I said, okay, sounds great. That's awesome. And then it came to telling the family, right? My husband, I know, is going to be whatever you need, babe. Whatever works for you is totally fine. He's not, I mean, he likes Christmas, but it's not like you have to be there at the house. Like, this is completely unacceptable. That's just, I mean, if you met my husband, if you know my husband, you know how ludicrous that is. And I had been putting off telling his mom and my sister-in-law because I was afraid that they would do the thing I mentioned earlier. That they would say, oh, but we'd really love you to be there. Oh, it's our last Christmas in the house. Oh, we'll really miss you. And they, you know, no one means to do that when they're saying that. I feel like they're saying like, we would love you there and we are going to miss you. But then the guilt kicks in, and then you know that they're kind of unhappy you're not there. And I didn't know how to deal with it. And I was thinking, man, maybe I'll just wait till December and tell them. Well, a month or two ago, I forget when, it was my 13-year-old nephew's birthday. He was turning 13, 2 hours north. And we decided we were going to go to his birthday party. We go up there. Great party, super fun. There was a bounce house, all the kids. It was great. And my mother-in-law is there. And we're just sitting chatting. And she says at one point, so you're not coming for Christmas, right? And I'm telling you, in that moment, I almost lost my mind. I was like, no, we're not. And thank you for bringing this up. It was such a relief that she brought it up. And she said, because that's a lot on you guys. I mean, are you hearing how wonderful she is? That she had this foresight? It also came out later that she was looking forward also to a scaled down Christmas because this trip is going to be so stressful. Just when you do Christmas, dude, like, there's trash everywhere. There's toys, gifts everywhere. There's dishes everywhere. You have to clean so much stuff. So to have to do that, and then they've got to, leave at 6 a.m. in the morning because they have a layover. We have a direct flight. But they would have to, get up really early. It's just no fun for anybody. They got to make sure they're packed. It's just not fun. And usually our Christmases and Thanksgiving have 15 people at them. So minimum. So she was like, I'm kind of looking forward to it being scaled down. I'm sure you are, and not expecting you to be there. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that because no, I'm not going to be there at all. And your son, my husband, we're not exactly sure. We think he's driving up on Christmas Eve. He might change his mind. And she was like, great, sounds good. Cool. And that was such a relief. It was such a relief that she accepted the boundaries. And then I later told my sister-in-law over the phone, and she was very yeah, it's going to be crazy. And actually, it's funny because over the year, it's been it's going to be fun. We'll do Christmas dinner at noon. Then we'll go home, pack, and we'll leave the next day. And as it's getting closer to the trip, actually, people are getting more this is really stressful. This is a lot. I need to wrap all the gifts. A lot of the gifts we're going to receive are going to be for the trip, right? So I've bought, my nephew, a Spider-Man beanie with Spider-Man gloves. And my other nephew, a Zelda printed beanie. And things like that. So these are things that you've got to unwrap that day. How many gifts kids get. Organize it at home and then pack it for the next day. I mean, just crazy. And so it was just really interesting that I was scared of doing this. And I think a lot of it is from my past because I have told my biological family that I'm estranged from in the past when we weren't estranged. I'm not coming for Christmas this year. I only have this amount of time off. When I was living in the US and I had to fly to England. And I was like, I don't want to do it. It's going to cost too much money. I just can't do it. And they went off on me. They literally emailed me and said, why do you hate us? Why do you not love us anymore? I feel like you've dropped us for your in-laws. This is completely unacceptable. Why? Which I'm telling you right now because I know a lot of neurodivergent people can be a little bit intense and get a little bit emotional, just speaking from my own experience. And I know that my mom and probably my grandmother are neurodivergent. And they just were, word vomiting what they felt in that moment. But it's so, if you have adult kids, you need to let them do what they need to do. Putting that pressure on them is only going to push them away from you. It's not going to bring them closer. If you give them the grace that they need, they will come closer to you. Not necessarily come that Christmas, because they can't. They're not lying. It's stressful. It's a lot of work to travel for Christmas, to spend a couple of days, take that time off work, and then, with this trip, we're going to have Christmas Day, fly out the next day, which is a Tuesday. I get back the following Tuesday, and on Wednesday I'm back to work. There's no break. I will have had no vacation whatsoever. It's going to be go, go, go from the moment I take off of work. And I'm really not looking forward to that. So if you have adult kids, I really urge you to give them that grace. Because if you raise them right, and I'm sure you did, then they aren't lying to you. They really are struggling and they need that grace from you. And then if you're worried about certain families, but they've family members or parts of your family, but they've shown you in the past that they do give you grace, trust them. Trust them that they will continue to give you that grace and that they love you. And because I was afraid, right? I said, I'm good at putting down boundaries, but I was afraid of putting down this boundary because Christmas is a big deal. And they were so gracious about it and proved to me, not that they need to prove anything, but again proved to me how great they are and how I'm so lucky to have them in my life and in my corner. That's my kind of lesson and empowerment here. If they've proved in the past they give you that grace, put the boundary down. They'll love you more for it that you're honest with them, and they'll learn more about you and what you need. And if they haven't proved that and you're afraid, but it's what you need, do it anyway. You need to do this for yourself. And if they don't accept you for what you need, then maybe you need to reevaluate how much communication you have with these people. It's so, you don't want Christmas and holidays and times of joy to be filled with arguments and anger and stress and guilt. And so you might feel the guilt when you do it the first time. I definitely have. But it gets easier over time the more you do it. So that's been my year. And we leave 6 days from now for this trip. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be 8 adults and 4 children. 8 adults, including me and my husband, and 4 children aged 1 or 2, 5 or 6, 10 and 13. So we're running the gamut there. It's going to be great, but it's going to be a lot. So maybe I'll do, when I come back for season 3 in the new year, maybe I'll do a debrief about it. But right now I'm actually excited about it because I've been able to put down these boundaries. If I hadn't done that and I was going to Christmas up 2 hours north and then having to fly out the next day, I'd be miserable. I'd be stressed. I'd be miserable. I'd be angry at myself that I didn't put those boundaries down. So right now I'm feeling good and I'm feeling festive and excited, and I hope you are too. I just want to let everyone know that tomorrow I will be doing a film fixation episode. It will be based on the first Christmas episode from Friends, which is in season 2. My apologies, again, I wasn't able to get to a movie, but I'm hoping with this break in January that I can kind of start back on doing a monthly movie film fixation podcast episode. And next week on Wednesday, which will be 2 days after Christmas, I will be releasing the 4th and final episode of my Unmasking ADHD series. And then I'm going to go on a 2-week break. But during that break, I am going to play a couple of old episodes, redo the intro and the outro, and kind of just give you something to listen to. And, if you've got ADHD, you probably forgot the episode anyway, so might as well listen to it. And then I'll be back in the middle of January with season 3 of my podcast. I'm hoping to get a better microphone for Christmas, so that I have less editing to do and it sounds a bit better. But to be honest, when I was researching online, the current microphone I have, people were saying is great. So if that doesn't happen, you'll just be listening to me sounding exactly the same. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow. For the next film fixation episode on My Brain is a Wonderland, Season 2.